These are 4 things that I'm teaching my kids that'll help you thrive through life. I'm starting with boredom. Boredom is necessary for creativity. So this is an idea that I've read in numerous books. But if you're a millennial and beyond, chances are you were once upon a time a kid laying in their bed, legs crossed, staring at a ceiling at some point, twiddling your thumbs. Whether it was a forced nap or simply out of boredom, there was a time where your mind simply wandered, dreamt, explored, and had time and space for creativity to flourish. Unfortunately, in today's fast-paced, race-like culture, there is little to no room for this kind of creativity. Wake up, brush our teeth, make a coffee, or whatever your routine looks like. Get dressed, check our phones, pack our lunch, go to work, possibly drop off our kids, finish work, get back home, start making dinner, get everyone in the bath, start your evening routine, maybe some more work, go to bed, and then wake up to repeat that cycle again. As kids, we have more room for forced creativity, things like art class. But even that has a sort of itinerary, a sort of checklist of what has to be done. So few are the moments where we get to use our right brain unrestrained, where we let creativity take over and just see what it comes up with. Most of our jobs, and I say most because musicians and artists may be the exceptions, or people who are in marketing, don't have the opportunity to be super creative with their minds. Meaning most of us don't have time to be bored. We just don't have time to create. Now, why is creativity so important, especially for children? It encourages us not to be lazy. Once we're on autopilot, whether that's at work or in school, we don't learn new ways of thinking, new skills. When we need new ways to solve a problem, we need creativity, not a manual. There is no manual for every problem that needs solving, only creativity. So I challenge you, find a time to be bored, maybe with your kids, maybe when you're alone, see what comes to mind. Don't judge yourself if nothing actually comes up. It takes time. I'll use YouTube as an example. Back in 2021, when I started to make YouTube videos, I had no idea what was a good way to make YouTube videos, how to capture attention. The more I practice, though, the more I get creative with my videos. I need to be bored in order to think of these ideas. As a doctor where my brain is trained for a step-by-step approach to work, that is, listen to a history, gather information, make a diagnosis, send for some tests, and then follow up with a plan, I don't get to be creative. Creativity is almost freeing. So I force myself most nights to get bored so that I could write out my ideas and my thoughts. See where it takes you. Let me know what you come up with. Number 2 is the skill of patience. Not only are things like television, YouTube, and other social media platforms stealing our attention at lightning speed, they're also seriously contributing to our short fuse, our lack of patience. Have you ever noticed yourself getting irritated by someone trying to grab your attention while you're busy scrolling through your phone? Or what about being in a car and impatient about the car ahead of you trying to move through the intersection? Not to mention the abundance of evidence that correlates video games and television exposure to ADHD. While attention disorders are not defined as a lack of patience, people who are impatient tend to be easily distracted or inattentive. But guess what? All of this technology is not going anywhere. Luckily, I love that I can talk about and teach all the things that I know about here on YouTube and on Instagram. But I still want to teach my children and you that patience is a superpower. In a professional setting, patience could make or break your capacity to move upwards, that is, get promoted, or even simply complete your tasks successfully. Take a secretary, for example, speaking on the phone. If they're impatient, they may not necessarily get the right information and miss out on data for that patient's chart. Or an investment banker who lacks patience, making hasty decisions based on the pressures around them, or even the short-term market fluctuations, potentially leading to major losses. You can see where patience plays a major role even in our professional lives. But what about our relationships? Patience helps us be more understanding and empathetic. Parents who lack patience often yell at their kids out of frustration, which can cause emotional distress on both ends, leaving everybody feeling defeated. I know, I've been there. I'm not saying it's not normal to yell occasionally, but maybe if you worked on your patience, you would do so less, strengthening your relationships more than straining them. Now, in situations of daily stress, like sitting in line waiting for a drive-thru at Starbucks or waiting for a traffic light to change colors, how impatient have you found yourself in similar situations? I'm sure you all have. I have. But if we master patience, we manage to work through more stressful situations with a lot more ease. Patience is also key to personal growth. Learning a new skill, like learning an instrument or a new language, requires consistent effort and an acceptance of slow, gradual progress. Impatience can lead people to give up prematurely, missing out on opportunities for self-improvement and growth. As you can see, learning patience in childhood is key, and it could set the stage for a balanced adulthood. Now, how do I do this practically? For my children, when they ask me for something that is non-urgent, like getting them a snack or handing them a water bottle when I'm driving the car, I don't do it immediately. Even when I can, I just let them wait a bit. Not because I'm a mean mom, but because I purposefully don't want them to expect everything that they demand to be handed to them instantly. Life is a bit of a waiting game, and that needs to be learned young. There's actually a really cute Dr.Seuss book about this, The Waiting Game, and I'll leave it in the description below. Another way is when they want something like a freshly baked muffin, but it's too hot, so I can't give it to them right away. What I do is I actually have them count. So I'll give them an incentive, like count to 60, for example. And this does two things. Number one, it helps them practice counting. And number two, it teaches them the art of patience, of not getting what they want immediately. As an adult, what's probably helped me the most with learning how to develop patience is meditating and probably reflecting on the reasons why I lose patience, but that could be an entire video on its own. Up in third place is emotional intelligence, not so much as a lesson, but actually as a skill set. Here's the premise though. The more you can understand your own emotions and other people's emotions, the more you can handle stressful situations, difficult conversations, and so on. I don't think people are born naturally with this ability. Some people are way more prone to understanding emotions versus others, and some people just need a lot more work. The key is to practice. There are some great psychologists whose podcasts and books I have listened to over the years. Susan David is one of them. She's a clinical psychologist and author of the book Emotional Agility. I will link some of my favorite resources below. Why do I emphasize so much on this skill set? Because so many of adult disputes stem and originate from their inability to navigate their own emotions. I'm sure you see it every day. You're in a heated moment, an argument with your spouse, a family member, or even with your kids. The argument spirals out of control and there's no real conclusion to the dispute because no one was able to sit down and actually discuss what was the root cause of that problem. Often this happens because we skip the simple step of identifying our emotions. I am mad, I am frustrated, I am disappointed. This can come up in so many situations, either in an argument or when you're sitting in a car and you're frustrated. We call this road rage. These are all valid feelings, but the problem is we rarely take the time to actually identify them and even more communicate them to the people that matter, that we are disputing with. The problem can only be fixed if we actually address it. Now, I also teach my children that the person you speak to may or may not respond in a way that you like. But that's not up to us. The only thing we can control is how we manage and share our own emotions. Here's an example. My child was upset about other kids calling him small. Now, he's barely even 4, so the expectation is very, very low here. But I explained to him that you can tell your friends, I don't like when you call me small. I like my size and I'm happy about it. This practice is important for 2 reasons. Number 1, he's learning to stand up to potential bullies of the future. Not in a defensive way, but by simply expressing himself, which if you've ever met a child between 0 and 18 years old is very rare and unusual for them to be able to do. And 2, he's building confidence and comfort in challenging situations. Life will only get more complicated as he ages, so let him learn now how he can navigate these emotionally charged scenarios. And hopefully it translates into other scenarios in the future. If you can label your own emotions, that is, identify them, content, frustrated, confused, disappointed, you can better respond to life around you and the various stressors that you face. The other really important lesson that I'm teaching my kids and that we need to know just as much as adults is the ability to fail. Failure is a big part of life, and we need to accept that we're not always going to come first place in life. We need to be okay with that. Otherwise, we're raising people to be adults who walk around crying about not getting the position over another colleague. Kids who don't get to fail become adults who mope around talking about how unfair their situation is. You know those people, or maybe you're even one of them, feeling like life is unfair, or you're not getting the right chance, or someone else is getting what you deserve. Here's how I'm teaching this to my kids. My eldest went through this phase where he constantly wanted to win. He wanted to win at every race with his brother. He wanted to win a prize. I'm not sure, maybe he learned it at school, and it's good. It shows a sense of like competitiveness, meaning he's working hard towards something that he actually wants. Competitiveness is not inherently a negative trait. Anyways, one day we were home and his brother finished his ice cream quicker than him and he was so upset. Started crying, yelling, but I wanted to win. It's a very silly example, but these scenarios often occur. So I make use of these situations. I explain to him that it's okay to lose some races. I also reminded him that not everything needs to be a race. It's okay to lose, and being mad that you lost is understandable, but you also need to understand that you will not always win. There will always be someone better than you, and that's a good thing. Here's the adult version of this lesson. If you're surrounded by people who know less than you, you are in the wrong room. You're losing on opportunities to learn and grow. Failure is good. Failure means you have something to work towards. I teach my son that if he loses or fails at his first attempt, that's okay, but he can always keep trying. The best example of this is a kid in a park. My kid tries to play with equipment in a park that is for kids that are probably twice his size. And I understand that. Rather than insisting that he can't do it, I let him try and even fail or not succeed. And I encourage that he just tries harder. He always does. Failing alone is useless, but failing and learning is powerful. I'd love to know what your takeaway from this video was and to send it to somebody who could learn something. You are your greatest investment. So follow for more on how to live your best life possible.